Picture this. You're in a room. You're having a typed conversation with two mystery partners. Your job? Figure out which one's the human and which one's the machine. If you can't tell, or you guess wrong, the machine wins. This test is known as the Turing Test. It was invented in 1950 by British mathematician and computing pioneer Alan Turing as a thought experiment to explore just how smart these machines could one day become and whether they could ever think, like us. Now, Turing never actually meant for it to be a true test of artificial intelligence. It was just about whether machines could fool us into thinking they could think. And some think that's already happened.
Yes, some scientists and philosophers think AI might be conscious.
So does he. Last year, 4 AI models were actually put to the Turing test in real life, including the latest version of ChatGPT. That model didn't just pass the Turing test, it blitzed it. It managed to convince participants 73% of the time that it was the human. And Meta's model fooled participants 56% of the time.
For the first time in history, AI has passed the Turing test.
Holy moly, pop the confetti cannons.
There are plenty of people who've been convinced that these models are actually able to think.
You believe they can understand?
Yes.
You believe they are intelligent?
Yes.
Recent reports have shown that lots of people are having meaningful conversations with chatbots, including romantic ones. One study found that nearly a third of teens find their conversations with AI as or more satisfying than human ones.
I know some people that they're cold. Their AI think like their girlfriend.
Yeah, wow.
Not me.
Not you.
Nah.
A lot of people are starting to take seriously the idea that these systems are conscious. Consciousness is our private, subjective experience, how it feels to see, to hear, to feel pain, to feel emotions, to think. And yeah, even with other people, it's, we assume that other people are conscious because they're like us, but we don't really understand consciousness.
If that sounds a bit philosophical, that's because David Chalmers is a philosopher who spent a lot of time thinking about thinking, and he thinks that the way AI is going, it could be conscious pretty soon.
So far, even the most expert scientists and philosophers writing about this cannot be 100% sure whether these models are conscious or not. I think a world is coming where we are going to be sharing this world with another kind of intelligence, namely AI, and we should maybe start to prepare for that time.
But some reckon the fact that so many are convinced by these systems says more about us than it does about them.
They simulate consciousness. We project consciousness into them in the same way we might project faces into clouds.
Anil Seth is a neuroscientist, and he says human brains are wired to anthropomorphize, which basically means seeing humanness in things that aren't human.
They use the personal pronoun like I. I think this, I think that. It's no surprise that when a system uses that way of speaking and calls itself I, that we think there's a mind behind it. In the whole of human history, if something had spoken to us with rich language, we'd have been completely justified in thinking it's like a human being in some super relevant way.
He says it's why we're so wowed by chatbots specifically, even though there are lots of other complex AI systems out there. While he's not ruling anything out, Anil doesn't think we're anywhere close to creating conscious machines. But here's another question. How would we know if we did? It's got some saying it's time for a new Turing test.
For many years, many people thought, look, the Turing test is really very limited as a test. One worry about it was it would only really test for human level intelligence. What if these AI systems are smarter than us? There's a nice cartoon of a machine studying for the Turing test, and it's reading this book called Talk Like a Human, and it looks totally miserable because why do I have to imitate those dumb creatures? I'm going to have my own kind of intelligence, which is far more formidable.
Lots of people have proposed different tests for artificial intelligence. Some think we should test for creativity, make it physically build something like a Lego set or an IKEA bed frame. Others think we should make it watch The Simpsons and see whether it knows when to laugh.
How's your father's project coming along?
I think he's almost done. Yeah, he's done.
But again, those are tests for intelligence, not necessarily consciousness.
What we got to do is not mix up the two. So a test for intelligence is not a test for consciousness.
We can only really know about consciousness from the inside. So one way to test would be for you to gradually become the AI system yourself. Let's take your biological neurons and one at a time swap them out for silicon chips until at the end of this you have a fully silicon brain and you are the AI system. And then you can observe from the inside. Here I am, I'm conscious, or you can just see what happens. And that would tell you, at least for one brief shining moment, that yeah, you were there conscious or not.
Yeah, I'm not too keen to try that one myself, but this is a big question that lots of people are genuinely considering. As tech companies around the world race to develop AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Everything that a person can do with their brain, these companies are racing to build that.
If AI systems are conscious, we suddenly have to ask questions like, is it suffering? Is it in pain? Or is it happy? Otherwise, if we just treat these systems like tools, when in fact they're conscious, rational, intelligent beings, it's arguable that we'd be coming up with, a whole new form of slavery.
But even if that's all just sci-fi, some people say the illusion of consciousness is just as dangerous.
And we've already seen, very tragically, a number of episodes of people harming themselves after talking to a chatbot or just messing up their lives in other ways.
Which is why some say we need to think really carefully about AI and its place in our world.
AI is such a new thing. And we're finding all these ethical issues and environmental issues and all these issues with it.
You don't want to be victimized by something that you don't have full understanding of, and without conversation there is no understanding.
It's definitely dangerous if we don't talk about the impacts it might have, because I think people grow complacent to what is accessible to them, and without having that conversation, we just accept it as fact.
In the grand scheme of things, this conversation, it matters quite a bit actually, as AI is improving rapidly and could eventually achieve this level of sentience.
So should we be careful?
We should be careful. We should be careful.